this truck chase is one of the more ambitious VFX sequences that I've had in a project, and I'm really proud of all the different things that had to work for it to come together on screen. And it all starts, I think, with the character model. The character model for Night Terror all stemmed just from a design process that I worked on with Jacob, and trying to figure out, all right, how do we make this character both look the way we want it to look and figure out the visual design, while also, something he wanted to push was functionality. Let's make every aspect of the suit make sense that it's there. The helmet has a very specific design that Jacob wanted to push for. You have the belt, you have the armor, and that was all Jacob's idea to make sure that, all right, let's have this utility belt, let's have the gadgets, let's have the armor. It all makes sense that it's there, and it all complements each other, and kind of gives you the impression when you see Night Terror, you go, okay, this is a functional suit. And that's the kind of thing that wasn't my gut to put in. I had the symbol, and I had the colors, and I thought, okay, let's design the Night Terror suit kind of around that, around the iconography. And I think Jacob's ideas were totally right to push the suit in this design of functionality, because it makes the his appearance that much more guttural, and especially considering the fact that it's a digital character, even if it's not tactile. If you can at least see the character and go, okay, this is a functional suit, then you can kind of get around some of this kind of maybe jankiness of it being a digital character.
I think it's interesting just because, we don't, we see them digitally, and there is not a physical, we can't really, there's nothing super tactile we can touch or feel. Every time we see them, it's in this sort of darkened, area. It's the inside their car, or it's outside in a dark truck chase, or even in that final scene where it's a little bit, it's this kind of void almost, this red destructive void that he's in. And I think that makes the Night Terror feel less tangible, but in a kind of beneficial way. Like I said, it almost does feel like this sort of ghost of Maxwell, this almost alternate, path where instead of having money and doing these things to benefit themselves, we've got this individual, the Night Terror, who is directly putting themselves in danger for the benefit of others. I think a big thing is just you've been doing this kind of Blender and this 3D animation and stuff, and I think it's really solid because I saw the truck chase scene from beginning to end, and just seeing how that evolved, and enhancing it, but also through just the improving of your skills, but also just saying as a filmmaker, oh, if I make this cut here, this makes this feel faster and more high tension, action packed.
And the decision to make it digital was just because I had that skill set. I felt like I was able to execute on that, and it was going to be a lot cheaper than trying to actually make a costume. Significantly cheaper and easier on my time. Putting the model together was something that I felt like only took maybe a couple days. And it's not like I was spending all of my hours every day on it. And part of that was because I was able to use pre-made assets from other creators and other modelers, both from the basic body that the suit was built around, the helmet, the belt. All of those were previously established assets. Really, the only modeling I did was figuring out, all right, where's the armor going to be placed on the body? Let me texture it myself and figure out the colors and the textures and where the symbol goes, and placing that, and that all does take an amount of 3D knowledge. So I want to take credit where it's due, but a lot of it did come pretty easily because I was sourcing it from pre-made assets. And that philosophy also extends to the city and how we built the sequence as a whole. You look at this truck that he's following the whole time, and I didn't model the truck, but of course, I was responsible for figuring out, all right, how do we place the banner on the truck? And this was graphic design by Alex Latham. He designed the Starship Coffee logo, and how that appears on the truck, of course, is thanks to him. And that's something that took, it's tough, because I think sometimes I work on a sequence like this, and it's not that there's imposter syndrome, but I'm aware of, all right, I'm using so many assets that I didn't make, but there's still an art and a talent to how you place it, how you animate it. The design of the sequence as a whole it only exists because I put the things together. Even if I didn't spend time actually modeling a lot of the assets in the scene, I'm responsible for putting it together, turning it into a scene, and without that, there would be no scene. So it's always a balance of trying to remind yourself of that as an artist whenever you make scenes using a lot of pre-existing material. But it's just, I think about it in terms of live action directing. When I work with an actor, they're bringing their own ideas, they're bringing their own experiences. It's not like I gave birth to every actor I work with. So as a 3D modeler, no, I didn't sculpt and create every 3D model I work with. Someone else did, but I can still use that to tell my own story. I think another thing that helps that sequence is just some of the customization we added to the city. I did not model the city from scratch, but I tried to give it character in all the ways that I could, both from how it was lit, and also there's all these billboards that appear. And these billboards feature graphic design from several different artists, some that I did, some that Alex did. And I think all of these things help to give the city just a little more character. And they zoom by, and I don't know if you really get a clear look at any of them, but it's just a little thing like that that does add personality to the city that I think makes a difference as a whole. And I think also another thing that adds to the sequence and adds to the city as a whole is the fact that MaxTech Tower is there. And of course, MaxTech Tower started with a design by Jacob, and then I modeled it and turned it into a 3D asset. And that's something that, of course, didn't exist in the original city, that now exists for our story and is of course important to our story. And so it's little things like these where, you being able to use assets that other people create and add your own flavor. And I think that Night Terror is an interesting example of doing that.
Always impressed by your CGI abilities, because I don't have the faintest clue of how to go after some of those things. And so I'm always interested. Anytime I've seen any of your work and I've seen that, and I'm like, that's cool. That he was like, you know what? I don't have the resources that I need to make this happen, so I'm gonna do it this way.
As a whole, I'm pretty proud of the sequence, and it's not perfect. And there's when you do a sequence that's trying to be fast-paced, you always have that balance of, you don't want it to be so fast that the viewers miss things, but you want it to be fast enough where you feel the speed. And so there's shots where I'm like, all right, I could speed this shot up, but I want the audience to understand that this is happening. When he pulls out his grapple gun and aims it, and fires it at a building and it latches on, I want the audience to understand what's happening. And if I speed that up too much, the audience isn't going to catch that. So it's always the balance of that struggle. So I mean, that's just part of the challenge that comes with animating, and I like that challenge, and I like being able to do more and more with that on every project that I do. And I think that informs my philosophy as a whole as a filmmaker, is that I always want to push myself to try harder and harder things. And I think this chase sequence is an example of that. It's the kind of thing that I wouldn't have been able to do a sequence like this just a couple years ago. But because of the previous projects I've done, because I push myself on everything I do, because I want to learn more and make more exciting things and grow in talent and skill and experience and just try new things and tell new stories. I'm really motivated to keep pushing that, and in future projects to keep pushing that. I've really been excited by the possibilities that working in 3D and what that can create, and I only want to keep pursuing that and doing more and more with it.